Skipping through the enters.
Hey, so we were just talking about how terrible Amazon Prime is. Hey, come join us. Come join in on the fun.
Mostly the UI, but also, I mean, I think Vince was saying
the programming.
they'll not spend any money on that, but they'll give us shows that no one asked for also, and just throw a lot of money at it.
But Vince, what Vince was saying a specific show. What show were you talking about that the intro costs like a crazy amount of money?
I love it. The Top Gear guys, they started their own show on Amazon. I think it's called the Grand Tour, and they're absolutely wild episodes. Like, it's really, really good. But the first episode, they made a joke about how much money Amazon gave them to make the show, and I forgot how much they spent, like millions and millions and millions of dollars just on the opening. And it was cool, but then also, like, we're going back to the UI. Like, there's so much money that could have been spent in making Prime a better app, and instead they just throw it at TV show. The Lord of the Rings show too, that no one likes. How much money did they spend on that? And they don't even. There's like no return to it. I don't know.
$1 billion.
And I didn't realize I was like, oh wow, they spent $1 billion and they got Lord of the Rings. That was like a couple years ago. But now it's like, oh wait, they didn't get Lord of the Rings. They got like the scraps of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
That, like, they can't reference anything.
It's so
they got
weird.
what was on Tolkien's cutting room floor, dude. And they just, I can't believe all that. And then the tough part is, well, I don't understand why these streaming companies, they all need content, right? Why don't they do more cross promotion? Like, why don't you put that Chris Pratt series that actually like had a lot of viewers, do a deal with Netflix where you do a run on Netflix for 2 months and let people see your content. It's all your branding, you know. And then if you want to see the first run of all this stuff, come back and watch Amazon Prime. But it's just, it's crazy just how user unfriendly it really is. But yeah, anyway, welcome. Sorry. Go ahead, Dave. I want to
guys. Welcome.
Yeah.
We're not done yet.
I was just gonna throw in like I was catching up on the South Park a bit ago, and like I realized I was like, oh, they have all these like specials that are on what is it, Paramount Plus, and then I found out that they're like completely separate deals outside of their other deal, and I guess like Comedy Central or whoever the rest like got pissed about it, but the whole like concept of the specials aren't very good. But, like, the whole concept of it is, like, they're being super meta about what's happening and the fact that they're just cashing in, like, being paid by, like, some other company. And the fact that streaming platforms will just pay so much money. They'll just throw so much money at people, even if it's not good, and how, like, it's just this, like, obvious thing now that 80% of content on streaming platforms isn't good, and they know it's not good. They're just throwing it in there for more content just to have, like... but really just focusing on that 20%. So I don't know. It's like
it's the Netflix model.
The sort of writer strike sort of stuff is going on. Like I don't know. There's a lot of we're just now seeing the ramifications of it, I guess.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of incestuous streaming when it comes to the writer strike, I think. But yeah, dude, just on a side note, you guys got to watch The Bear. It just started its season 2. Season 1 is on Hulu. Really good show. There was an episode last night, so like all of their episodes are like 27 minutes to 30 minutes, so it's super easy to consume. And first season had 8 episodes, second one has 10. But I'm sitting there last night and we got to episode 5 of season 2 and it's an hour long, so it just like bucks the trend. And dude, it's one of the most intense episodes of TV that I've ever seen. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a really good show. I think you guys would like it for different reasons. But yeah, check it out. It's on Hulu, and you know that's another show that's like it's crazy popular on Hulu. But why aren't you don't see it anywhere else? I guess it's an FX show, so if you have FX, you can watch it there. But it doesn't make sense to me. It's like you're already promoting your like Netflix. Majority of your stuff on there is content from movie studios, whether it be TV or movies anyway. So why aren't you using more relevant things and getting, it doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah.
Peachtree says, I've been looking for something Breaking Bad-esque. Would you say The Bear is sort of a little bit like that, or what? Like, what's the tone?
No, it's intense in a different way. So like, I'll give you just a really quick, synopsis of what it is. It's about this kid who's like comes from this dysfunctional family. And here I go on the Evil Dead Rises review. But he comes from this like really dysfunctional family, but he's a really talented chef. So he goes to like all of these like schools in Europe, and ends up at a 3-star or 3-star. I think it's 3-star. I think it's the highest you can get. I apparently haven't been watching it that closely, but he works at this really high-end restaurant in New York, and his brother ends up committing suicide and leaves him this restaurant in Chicago. It's like a sandwich shop.
You're gonna tell us everything about it?
I mean, that's like literally you could go read that anyway. That's the whole show.
Season
but
1.
He moves back to run it, and it's just the whole thing is about how it's just very character centric, and it's very like fast paced because they emulate what it feels like to be in a kitchen, like at a high level, and so the whole show is paced that way. So it's very fast moving, very very character driven. Where you start in season 1 is not where you end up in season 2, or at finale of season 1, and then same for season 2. But so yeah, it's just really interesting because you see him take the mindset of a person that works at this high end and apply it to something that a lot of people would consider to be low level, and then in that using his talent to pull other people who are like naturally talented, using that to pull that out of them. With structure and stuff like that. So really, really cool show. Again, it's super consumable because it's, you're not in it for an hour and 12 minutes or whatever that Last of Us episode was. But yeah. So anyway, check it out. Good time.
Nice.
I'm
So
interested to see what Peachtree thinks too if she watches it.
It's a live action Ratatouille.
Sure.
That's what I took away from it.
Dude, the wild thing, the lead in it looks exactly like a young Gene Wilder. Like exactly like young. I mean, and in profile, he looks more like Gene Wilder. It's wild. There's so
Getting
many...
ready for that the Gene Wilder biopic, dude.
Dude, I'm every time like I notice it in the show, I just turn to Sarah. I'm like, if they don't do a Gene Wilder biopic, what are they doing? Like, low budget, just do it. Everybody would go see it. You could use. Yeah. Anyway,
Just start sending letters, dude. Who owns the rights for Willy Wonka?
That would be Warner Brothers, I believe.
Dear Warner Brothers, it's me again.
Well, they're coming out with a Wonka prequel this summer where Timothy Chalamet is playing Willy Wonka. Yeah. So I don't know why we keep needing Wonka.
Why am I surprised, dude? It's like, what have we not made a prequel about?
I feel like the thing always like for Tim Burton for a long time was like Alice in Wonderland, Willy Wonka. Like, what can you see Tim Burton doing that aligns with like his aesthetic? And he made both of those movies. And while I really like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it's not a great movie in my opinion. But like, I like it because I like the performer and I like the aesthetic and I like all that stuff. But this is just I don't understand why they keep going back to that well.
How many like years? I feel like 10 years we talked about, dude, can you imagine if Tim Burton got a hold of Alice in Wonderland? It would be insane.
Yeah.
And then it was like, we finally got it, and we were like, oh, okay. All right.
All right, we were wrong.
Yeah. Oh, he used a lot of
fine.
CG in this. Oh, okay. Oh, so that's what he's doing with the Oompa Loompas. Okay. All right. Got it. They're like silent film characters. Okay. All right. Well, if that's what we're doing. Yeah, but anyway, so a lot of weird stuff coming out. But speaking of weird, I went on a solo venture, pun intended, and saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, I understand you guys both saw it twice, so you might be a little bit more informed than me on.
I have not seen it.
Well, Dave took a moral stance. Dave took it was like a Catholic for this movie, where he was like, I can't morally go and support this movie, and I think a lot of people felt that way.
More people are liking it than I thought, so it makes me. I was hoping everybody would hate across the board, so it would make it easy, and it'd be like, cool. I don't have to pretend. I can pretend, like it doesn't exist. But yeah, people are actually liking it, so I'm a little bummed. I might have to see it, but I don't know. It's just kind of speaking of going back to South Park. Just always brings me back to the Lucas raping. Indie South Park episode.
Yeah.
And, it brings that to mind. But
yeah, and yeah. What about you, Vince? Like, what's been your perception of this movie? Because I was affected. I mean, as soon as they announced this movie, I was bummed. I've always been a proponent of like, I love Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. He's the only person I can imagine as Indiana Jones. But to me, the thing I love about Indiana Jones is the plot lines of these movies, and they only really work in with a certain like decade, maybe two, in my opinion, in the archaeology and the discovering things. And I think there's so many places that you could take that I would love to see Indiana Jones in. So I was okay with them if they wanted to go and they wanted to cast younger. I know Chris Pratt was talked about for a really long time. I think there's a bunch of people that could kind of step in and fill the shoes of the Indiana Jones character and make it like Jack Ryan, or make it like, James Bond, or what I suspect they're going to do with Ethan Hunt. But that was my perception. Vince, what do you think about this movie?
I feel like I am either not in the loop, but I feel like all these movies I've heard of, and then you send me a text and you're like, all right, I'm going to see it Friday, and then I'm just blindsided because I didn't even know that anything's coming out.
Yeah.
My stance on Indiana Jones films, the first three are, I don't really need any more. It's not like Star Wars where there's like an entire universe, and although like those are debatable what's good and what's bad, I feel like that is something that people want to build on and want all this. I think I'm kind of fine with the three existing movies. The fourth one I've never seen. Don't really need to.
What's the fourth one? I thought there were just three.
Well, I put a little hint to it in the picture today with the crystal skull. I don't know if that is in the movie at all, but I was like, I'm going to throw a freaking crystal skull in there, dude.
I'm going to put a little crystal skull.
Yeah,
well, I can report that they stayed pretty far away from
Did
Crystal
they?
Skull.
I figured they would. That's why I threw it in
There's some definite. There's not direct references to Crystal Skull being.
No one was swinging through the trees with monkeys, or not even like a single time.
No monkeys in this one.
Oh.
So I'm like, I've come to the conclusion. I'm always like, I've always been the guy that's like, I want to see more of these characters. I want to see more of these worlds if they can do it. I want to see where these characters ended up. For me, Luke, the biggest heartbreak in maybe my lifetime in terms of a movie is what they did to Luke Skywalker in Last Jedi, and what they did to him in Force Awakens, because I spent so much time as a kid with my other friends who were Star Wars nerds playing with action figures and creating like what happened after Jedi. Then there's a really good book series called Heir to the Empire that is non-canon anymore, but sorry, I had to.
Was that for Peachtree or?
Are the fans breaking
I gotta
in
get
right now?
I gotta get my mistresses out before my wife gets home, so I just always.
How is your maid, dude?
She's great, dude. Don't make that joke. My maid watches this. No. Anyway, so like I've always been a fan of like seeing the continuation of this. Then what they did to Luke Skywalker, I was like, okay, I don't need to see it anymore. Like I don't need Robert Downey Jr. to come back. I don't need Chris Evans to come back. Those stories ended. Let's leave them where they lie. Let's start creating new things. Let's create new characters and all this stuff. And so Indiana Jones was kind of like, I went into this not looking forward to it. I went into it wanting to hate it and being honestly bummed, because I do love Harrison Ford and I think he's awesome. He's an awesome actor. Even though he's not super versatile, I feel like he always, is solid in the stuff that he does. So I went into this really, I was like Dave. I mean, me and Dave have spent time talking about, the woes of Indiana Jones. I guess I don't go as far as like not acknowledging Crystal Skull existence, but I can understand why a lot of people hate that movie and like why all that. So all that being said, sorry, Dave, you were going to say something and I just completely bulldozed it.
It wasn't very funny. I was going to say that's what they're going to call the sixth one, is the woes of Jones.
Dude, and it's like
The
70s and he's like disco. Dude, I would see that.
Dude, it's full disco. I would actually support that.
100%. And that's like, I feel like that's the thinking outside of the box. Like that's what Rian Johnson thought he was doing with Luke. Whereas like, I'm outside the box, I'm going to circumvent expectation, but he didn't realize that like what he was doing was completely altering,
which I get, but
everything.
Like if you're gonna do that, like it better be good, dude. Like you better be doing it
should
for,
be
like,
interesting,
an awesome reason, and interesting.
It should be totally interesting. So all that being said, I went into this and I read all this stuff and I bought into this and I thought I was going to absolutely hate it. And I really didn't. Do we need this movie? Absolutely not. Do we need to see Indiana Jones as an 80-year-old man? Absolutely not. Is there certain ways we're seeing him as an 80-year-old man as a bummer? For sure. But all that being said, at the end of the day, this is a James Mangold movie. So it's very Logan in a certain way. It's not as gritty, not as violent, of course, but it's Logan in the way that it deals with being like, what I enjoyed about this movie is I never wanted to see Indiana Jones, late stages Indiana Jones, but I feel like the character that we got was interesting and the story that they were able to tell was compelling. I didn't love every aspect of it. It doesn't have the magic. The first, Vince, you put it perfectly, and Dave, you I mean, kind of the same with Crystal Skull. Sorry, boys.
Dave, you kind of put it perfectly, but Vince.
But I just mean like I just
I'll
mean
take
they, I mean they paired well with each other, and I think you guys are basically saying the same thing, which is like you don't need those first three movies are so amazing for so many different reasons, and we talked last week about Pee-wee and why that was a great movie because it was such a perfect storm of things coming together. George Lucas before all of his money, so that helps. But there was stuff in this that I liked. I felt like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who plays Indiana Jones's goddaughter, like was either they reshot a bunch of stuff and changed the movie, or the way she's being portrayed by all of these outlets as like they're gonna take over Indiana Jones and she's gonna be the Indiana Jones. None of that. No, in fact, like there's actually nuance to her character that I really enjoyed, and she kind of cons Indiana Jones out of retirement, which I appreciate. She did to Indiana Jones what Indiana Jones would do to other people, and like I appreciated that. And this this deals heavily into like Greek mythology, which I found interesting in terms of that was the big to me the thing with Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. So many people are pissed that it like dealt in like extraterrestrial things, and I don't know, that never bugged me as much as like the monkeys and getting in a fridge and like
I agree, yeah.
The inconsequential nature of that story, because there wasn't like if you think about like Raiders of the Lost Ark, like those are huge stakes. I mean, you're dealing in like an ancient like tabernacle between God and
But even
man.
that is like pretty wild, like to find the Ark of the Covenant and have it like you see it just vaporize people and like have like holy energy is like pretty wild too.
Yeah, and same in like Doom is like so much of that.
Temple of Doom is wild, dude.
Temple of Doom is a wild movie.
I hear everything you're saying, and I don't fully respect it because you're kind of a Temple of Doom hater. So
I'm not a
Know.
hater. See,
I'm with Dave on this one, dude.
That's how good those movies are. If you slightly don't like one more, like as much as the other two, then you're a hater. So maybe a little bit of it, maybe a sprinkling, maybe a little salty. No, I just don't think I don't enjoy that movie as much as I could put like Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark. I can never think of that name. I don't know why, but I can put those on at any point and just like watch the whole thing. And same's true for Doom, but I just feel like Doom kind of is like it's two parts of a movie and not three like the first two are. But it has Club Obi-Wan scene in the beginning that I love. So I don't I don't think it's a bad movie by any means. It's just not like my favorite of the three.
I like it because it's like I love all of them, but like Doom is just like divergent of the other two because it's like the darkest one, but also somehow the funniest one.
Yeah,
which is like kind of interesting. But
as a kid, I always felt like it had like Goonie vibes too. Like towards the end of it,
that's just because Short Round's in it.
Because Short Round's in it, but they
that's
also
accurate though. I could see that
watching it as a kid, and I think even before they made the Indy ride, like the whole mine car thing, it feels like a ride. Yeah. It's like fun, and I guess I don't know if that's what the movie is like supposed to be going for, but that aspect of that movie I loved. I loved the monkey brains as a kid, being like grossed out that they're doing that.
All right, I'm watching Temple of Doom tonight,
dude. I'm
watching Temple of Doom.
I would run around as a kid in just my underwear, screaming "Kali Ma" and like trying to steal my sister's heart,
all that's great. I cannot do Kate Capshaw in that movie, dude. Kate Capshaw bugs me so hard, and I'm not the biggest Short Round fan either, dude. I'm not the biggest Short Round guy.
I feel like it works because of that. Because like
he's so annoyed by her.
She's so over the top.
Yeah.
That it like accentuates Indy's like straight characterness or whatever, for lack of a better term. I don't know.
That's
I get it though. I get that it's not for everybody.
That's all summed up in the airplane when she just continues to ask him questions and he just puts the hat over his face. Yeah. Like at that moment, you know the dynamic between the two, and you know that you hate her.
Dude, so much of that
movie, the sexual tension when they're going back and forth through the rooms. I rewatched it probably about a month ago, and I watched it a lot as a kid, and I never really picked up on the sexual tension between the two characters in those scenes. It's done so well, dude. I'm a Temple boy.
I'm a Temple boy. Is that
boy.
what I got your profile says on it?
My IMDb badge is Temple boy.
If there's one thing I'm a Temple boy.
So yeah, I mean, the fact that we're talking about the better trilogy while we're talking about the new one, I think kind of speaks volumes. But I enjoyed this movie for what it was. It wasn't Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and in totality. There's elements to it that I was like, whoa, it's kind of crazy they went there. But the more that I thought about it, I went, okay, this makes sense in a symbolic way, I guess.
Would
Yeah.
you compare it to like Toy Story 4, where it was like not necessary but still good?
Yeah, that's in honestly, that's a great way. Honestly, I would still give this movie probably a 6 out of 10. But I'm okay. Like, for me, that's just, it might be an average movie, but I enjoyed it. And it's probably because I went in with such low expectations and I expected to come out and be, South Park level, like, pissed off about, what they did to Indy. But I feel like they gave, if this is the last one, they gave him a solid out, but it is tough to watch an 80-year-old dude do action. And I was telling Vince, there's significant portions of the movie that is de-aged. There's sequences where they go back. Dude, if you guys don't mind spoilers, there's flashback stuff.
Call out some big spoilers.
Well, we are going to
before.
do, just to let you guys know, since Vince and I haven't seen it, we are going to do, Eli has put together a 2 truths and a lie for what happens in the movie. And we got to guess which one he's BSing us on. So that's coming up.
So what I'm about to say has nothing to do with that. They show you a past adventure to connect the dots to this movie. But his past adventure, dude, is getting the Spear of Destiny, which was the spear that they used to pierce Christ's heart. So there's this sequence in the beginning where it's young Indy and they de-age him. And the de-aging works super well when he's not in direct light. So when he's more in profile and it's a darker scene, and a lot of the scenes like conform to that because they have to. But I was telling Vince, it's like, it's just still not at the point. I think the best CG ever is probably Thanos. And then I think in terms of de-aging, I think what they did to Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War and what they did to Michael Douglas in Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man, that might be the best de-aging I've ever seen.
What did you think of Kurt Russell in Guardians 2?
Well, dude, I thought that was really well, but according to James Gunn, there wasn't a lot of de-aging. It was a lot of makeup. I'm sure there has to be to get the wrinkles out, but I don't think it was in the same way. Like, in this one, they're like, so it's not so much the de-aging that's the tough part in this. It's the fact that an 80-year-old dude is still like delivering the lines. And it's like when you watch The Irishman's the exact same way, where it's like the de-aging works in some scenes and doesn't, but the way that they don't move like the ages that they're playing. And so Harrison Ford would deliver a line, but he would deliver it like old man Harrison Ford. And I'm like, it was just, there was a lot of uncanny valley because
you guys can fix that in post later, right?
Well,
we can't fix your acting.
Well, you know how like Indy like will say something and add that like smile, that smirk, and like it just like you could tell that Harrison Ford's instinct wasn't to do that. And so it was a little bit lacking. The sequence itself is really cool though. And I enjoyed seeing that. I thought it was cool that we got a glimpse at another, Indy adventure from when he was a young dude.
I mean, to be honest, I thought it was sort of like that in Crystal Skull. And now that was ages ago.
How long ago was Crystal Skull? It's been a while.
You can see him so old, dude.
But I'll say this, like, to the flip side of that, when they get out of that and he is just old man Jones, it's not bad. Like, there's not, like obviously in the action sequences you can tell like, oh, that's a younger person that is trying to look like Harrison Ford. There's a sequence where he's riding a horse through New York that actually looked pretty good, and in the trailer didn't look good, so I wasn't expecting it. But that sequence was pretty cool. But yeah, it overall, like, I enjoyed it. I think the Toy Story 4 comparison's like pretty fair. Although I probably like Toy Story 4 a little bit more, as in regards to being a complete movie, but it's very similar in theme. It's like Indy's not like, he doesn't want to be Indy because time has passed. And the way that's cool about what they do to portray it, and this is like a James Mangold thing to me, like the time around him, takes place in 1969. So the world around him has changed. And in that, like, has forced him to change too, but also like kind of left him in the past. So that's like really what they're dealing in this movie. And I thought they handled it in a pretty good way. I don't know. I could rewatch this movie and be like, okay, my expectations were too low last time or whatever. And I don't know, but for first viewing, I enjoyed it. I would see it again for sure. But with that said, I do have 2 truths and a lie, because I'm interested to see what you guys think.
I want to talk more about the
Nice.
other 3 films, but okay.
Dude, we can have a stream where that's all we do is just break down indies.
Are they in 4K? The original trilogy?
Yeah, and they look
Nice.
beautiful, dude.
I don't think I've seen them in 4K, so maybe
What's
I'll do
the
that
name of
too.
the third? Last Crusade?
Yeah.
First off, the title tells you they should have stopped.
Well,
It's
yeah,
the last one.
Didn't they make a TV show?
yeah. And Harrison Ford cameos in it, and he
Dude.
plays an older Indiana Jones with an eye patch.
I'm almost in the opinion that you don't have to have like someone passing the baton. I know you're saying that that's not what's happening, but that's kind of what they said was happening. In that movie, it starts off with him being a teenager. I would be completely fine with more Indiana Jones teenager like
Yeah.
movies, dude. I don't need you to de-age him. I don't need to do anything. If we're going to continue the franchise, go back in time where you can find someone that looks close to him but still be young enough to be able to do the action scenes and do all that. I'm in.
And here's the
And don't make a
egregious
big
thing to
deal
me.
about it.
You mark my words, dude. They will reboot Indiana Jones with a younger actor at some
And it's
point.
a bummer, dude. I just pick something else.
I don't think it is a bummer. I think it's
It is like, it is hard because there's just certain characters that like you can't recast because it'll never be the same. And I feel like Indy's kind of a character that's like right on that line, or it's like, ooh, that'd be really hard, but like maybe for some reason I feel like Han Solo was way worse recasting. Because he was Han Solo was one of those characters to me that was kind of untouchable, almost on the level of like imagine if they recast like Jack Sparrow or Tony Stark and be like, dude, you just can't. Like,
It'd be too much, yeah. Some characters are so
But-
big that they
like
are
they
the
bring
person.
so much to it that it would be like,
But
I don't know,
see,
number
I
one,
don't-
like, yeah, hard to live up to. But
definitely hard to live up to. I agree with that. But I just think like Indy to me is it really is like a James Bond character. And I mean that's why like the movie was made, because Spielberg wanted to make a Bond movie and they wouldn't let him because he's not British, so he just made his own Bond movie and it was freaking Indiana Jones. And like I think number one, I'm of the mind like let's just create new stuff like across the board. Like that's where the money's going to be, is creating new stuff. But I just think if you're going to do it, and they are going to continue to do it, that's the thing, is like they're going to beat the same drum because they spent $6 billion on this. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But to me, the only reason it doesn't feel like somebody else could play it is because we've never seen somebody else play it. And I feel like with Captain Jack, that is such a like, I love Harrison Ford, and this is no way backhanded because he makes that character for sure, but he's not doing something like what Johnny Depp did for Captain Jack, or and like creating this character whole cloth and making it unique from the actor that he is. Like Harrison Ford's
Yeah.
kind of a like a Leonardo DiCaprio, where it's like you like going to see his movies, but he's not like he's not doing like characters really that far outside of himself. Anyway, all that to say, like, yeah, it is an interesting conversation though, but yeah, I mean, Vince, that does make sense, and I think that's what they really wanted to do when they did that. They were going to do it with River Phoenix, and then he died, and I just don't think people. But yeah, I think they need to just stop. Like Disney for sure needs to just start. They've got a lot of creative people over there. They need to create new stuff and make whatever the next thing is, instead of trying to encapsulate something that's, it's a dying brand. Like kids, even if kids go and see Dial of Destiny, what's going to make them want to go back and watch the original 3?
Yeah.
That's the thing too, is like just being realistic. Like I'll go see it because I grew up on it and I love it so much, and I have a morbid curiosity to see what they do with the character. But yeah, all that being said, like I thought it was a solid 6-7.
I have one more thing to add, and then I'll swear to God, I will go to the purpose of the show. I think with that character and with his like ability to kind of make any woman swoon on him, you could have also easily, and or still can, have a kid come up to him and be like, "Hey, I'm your son. This was blah. I'm blah 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 is my mom," and then do like a flashback to like some chick in Brazil in the 1950s where he just like slept with her one night and left, and then at that point he's like,
Well, hold on. You're getting into my game, dude. Like now you're getting, and you've read those slides, dude.
"Oh, I didn't. That wasn't based off of anything."
You might have already described
Shit,
something.
that was just my
happened.
brain. I didn't read.
Well, that's okay. We still don't know what's in there.
It's actually, I take it back. That's a great lead-in, Vince.
That's it. And also, if you guys saw the things, I don't read what you send me. I literally copy and paste. That's why one of the visuals said paste on it. And you posted it, and I was like, oh.
Vince is like Anchorman when it's like they just read everything on the teleprompter.
Dude, that's me,
never-
100%.
Yeah.
All right, well, should we
Let's
play?
get into it.
Are we
Let's
ready
do
for
it.
this?
So I have
Anyone in the chat also, meaning just Peachtree, can also play along with us.
Paige, get ready.
Get ready, Paige.
All right, here we go. Slide number 1.
Slide number 1. Okay, now Helena Shaw is played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and she is Indy's goddaughter. So that's pretty. I mean, that's all stuff that you get from the actual like trailer. But anyway, so I'll read you the fact about this movie. Helena Shaw, Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, steals the Dial of Destiny to right the wrongs of Indiana Jones's problematic past. In the third act, Helena Shaw goes back in time, and Indy does not appear until the last 5 minutes of the climax, cementing Helena Shaw's role as the one true Indiana Jones by the end of the movie. So
That's
she basically
wild. That is wild, dude.
So she goes back in time and basically reverses time so that everybody knows her as Indiana Jones and not Harrison Ford, not Henry Jones.
Oh.
What?
Well, this is Vince playing the game.
Mhm.
The whole conversation we just had, I kind of know that this is going to be false.
How so?
From what you're saying, that you thought that they were going to be. Well, I guess maybe not. You said that you thought going into it and from the news that they're trying to replace him with a woman. And then you said that didn't happen in this movie.
Interesting that's what you
I don't
heard.
like being on this side of the game.
What's tripping me up is Indy
like
does
knowing.
not appear until the last 5 minutes of the climax. When you say that, do you just mean like? Because he said there was like flashbacks and stuff, but then like he doesn't come back until later.
No, he's off screen for the third act until the last.
Oh,
5
okay.
minutes.
So just the third act. You're saying
Yeah,
just the
yeah.
third act,
Sorry.
he's not in until the very last 5 minutes.
Yes. So basically, she
Okay.
goes back in time and becomes Indy, and that takes place in the third act. So the whole third act, you're seeing her as Indiana Jones.
Okay. Wow.
That's pretty cool.
wild, dude.
That's pretty cool.
wild.
Typical indie for coming in for the last 5 minutes before the climax, dude.
I mean, that was my thing. Is like, okay, well, they still gave him a heroic ending, and he has to save the day. But yeah. Anyway, all right.
Okay. All right. That's off to a wild start. Let's see the next one.
All right.
That's me,
The
that's me.
next one. What's the next one, Vinny? Did I miss it? Oh, okay. You know what's funny about that? Dude? That's AI, right?
Yeah, dude, and some of them
That's
were really
funny,
good,
dude.
some of them were so bad.
So
Is
they
that
took,
like Indie Irishman or?
Yeah, dude.
no. What they did is it obviously looked at the promo stuff and the pictures because Antonio Banderas is in this movie, and that looks like a mixture of Harrison Ford and Antonio Banderas, and he's wearing the outfit of
Whoa.
Antonio Banderas.
Crazy.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I did. What?
Yeah,
I don't even know what to say. My brain just broke.
Dude, it's kind of fascinating how like good this AI did this, like how accurate it kind of looks to the movie.
The prompts,
all right.
I kind of used parts of what you said. So I used the timeline and then all the encounter stuff. But it brought up some weird stuff. This was the one usable one.
It's great. You did a good job. All right, so this is pitch number 2. Indy and Helena Shaw, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, go back in time to 212 BC during the siege of Syracuse and encounter Archimedes, the creator of the Dial of Destiny. Once there, Indiana Jones decides to stay and asks Archimedes if he can remain there to die in the past. After failing to convince Indy to come back, Helena knocks Indy out cold and takes him back to his time using the Dial of Destiny.
Wow, pretty wild, dude. Let's see.
So this is
So-
true.
Creator of the
Two
Dial of
truths, one
Destiny.
lie. So 2 of them are going to have what actually happens in the movie, and 1 is just complete bullshit.
No, sorry. One of them is true, 2 are a lie. So I'm reversing it. 1 lie, 2
lies,
truths,
1 truth.
baby.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to change
Sorry,
all of the
I
imagery.
forgot that was the format of the original one. But I feel like this works better because
2 lies. So it's 2 lies and a truth.
that's right. maybe
Okay.
maybe we'll reverse it, and you guys can tell me what you think are the two lies. Which I guess if you tell me what the truth is, that is implied. So never mind. So
Okay.
I don't know. What do you guys think about this one?
This one, I kind of believe it. It seems like it would make sense, like if they are going back in time, kind of this like journey through time. It seems like it's in her character to just like, it seems like a one-off joke to be like, maybe some dramatic moment where he decides to be there, and then she's like, nah, and knocks him out and takes him. It kind of makes sense to me, even though it seems pretty wild.
Interesting take. That's a perceptive take you got there. Also, I'm going to add a wrinkle into this, and no, I'm not going to do it because it's going to give away too much. Vince, what do you think about this one?
Dude, it's hard having all this power, huh? Because you don't know what to tell.
This is fun. I'm not
It's
going to
fun.
lie. This is a lot of fun.
And
it is power.
I don't know. I did like the first one, but now that I know there's two lies and one truth, I definitely think the first one's a lie. I don't know if we went over that earlier. This one, I'm kind of hung up on because the plot is thick, and it seems as if this is... I'm going this one is the truth. And I'll let you know I haven't read the third one, so...
Is that where you're at, Dave?
Yeah, for now.
For now, this
Let's circle
is...
back. Let's circle back.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next one then. Helena Shaw is revealed to not only be Indy's goddaughter, but also the widow of Mutt Williams, Shia LaBeouf's character from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, who died during the events of the Vietnam War. Indy wants to use the Dial of Destiny to try and go back in time to stop Mutt from enlisting in the war. As Indy states, the only reason he enlisted was to piss me off. Indy realizes that doing this would unravel the fabric of time and instead uses his relationship with Helena to make up for his dysfunctional relationship with Mutt before his death. The last sequence of the movie implies that Helena has a son, setting up the future of the Indiana Jones franchise involving Helena and her son.
So this is the one that you said that I was kind of spoiling, but it wasn't technically one of...
It wasn't the same, but
It wasn't Indy's
you're
bastard.
getting a little too close for my liking. So basically, yeah, so she comes out and she's the goddaughter, but she also reveals that she had a relationship with Mutt, and then reveals at the end, there's like the classic, they're walking out of frame, and then she grabs the hat and the jacket, and you think that she's going to put it on, right? Because that's what all the marketing has been up to this point, which is, oh, she's going to be the new Indiana Jones. And before she does, she puts it on his head and he looks up, and then it cuts to black.
And it's short round.
No, but around the same age.
So wait, did you just tell us how the movie ended?
I don't know. I don't know if I did.
Dave.
Could have been true.
Dave, you know Eli pretty well.
What?
Did he just spill the beans?
Could be, dude. I don't know. Yeah. Look, I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't see any spoilers before this.
Peachtree said there's a lot of details in this one. Eli is giving a lot of extra info.
That's true. There are a lot of details in this one. It does seem pretty plausible because it's sort of like the first one was like the most wild sci-fi. This one seems like it like makes sense, and it's more like grounded with like ties back to Crystal Skull too, which seems
like they would try
like something they would probably try
to like save their ass for the terrible film.
Yeah,
They're like, see, there was a reason.
No, Shia still matters. He's kind of there, but he's not. Okay.
Yeah, and keep in mind the only reason Shia wasn't in this one is because he likes to hit women.
And it doesn't help. That definitely doesn't help your cause.
You have to go back to DC for that one. Hey.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the second one again? It was
It was that they find the Dial of Destiny and they go back to
the Archimedes
Siege
one.
of Syracuse. Yeah.
I think Vince is probably onto something. I feel like the third one is probably the truth. But if that is right, I'm kind of bummed because I feel like I want to see the other movies.
I want number 2 to be right.
Yeah, I want that to be in there.
I want like a super cool
really
historical timepiece. I don't really care about anything that has to do with a guy named Mutt.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, I think that's what's getting me. Is like the third one is like probably the least interesting, but I feel like that's probably something that they
It's more
has the
realistic.
most probability of something that they would do.
Can
I
I,
don't know.
see
What do you think? What
slide
do you think,
1
Vince?
again? There's slide
Yeah, let's
1
go back to
for
slide 1.
Peachtree.
This one cut off a little bit of I don't know what happened with the copy paste, Vince, but it seems like there's a little missing.
You want me to reread it?
Is there?
I'm just kidding. There's just a little bit.
Oh, well, does it say paste?
Yeah, let's read it again. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, maybe Eli, you can read it again.
Helena Shaw, Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, steals the dial of destiny to right the wrongs of Indiana Jones's problematic past. In the third act, Helena Shaw goes back in time, and Indy does not appear until the last 5 minutes of the climax, cementing Helen. And I wrote this one a little bit weird too, so it's a little bit confusing. 5 minutes of the climax, cementing Helena Shaw's role as the one true Indiana Jones by the end of the movie. So she goes back and basically takes him out of the picture and assumes the mantle of Indiana Jones.
I'm tempted to say that one is the truth.
I hate that one though. Like,
Yeah.
I definitely, it's cementing me not seeing it if that happens to be true.
Well, okay. The thing I'll say is, yeah, she basically has to go back in time to the time of Raiders of the Lost Ark and has to find Indy. She has to so she goes and stops Indy before he goes and looks for the Ark. It's like right after he gets back from the opening sequence with the ball and he takes the idol. It's right after he gets back. She's like in class watching him give a lecture. And so like
she's
to
Biff.
What?
She's
That's
Biff
like,
in
this.
this.
Is like the Back to the Future 2
Yeah.
of indie movies.
She's
dude.
Biff. She accidentally leaves
Or
her cane
It's like
in his
Endgame
horse.
too, right?
Yeah,
It's every movie.
It's along those lines for sure.
That's pretty wild, dude.
All right, and then I just flip back to number 2 again.
Slide 2 is less is like a little more of a specific moment rather than like a scene rather than like the full movie, like the end of the movie.
I like that number 2 is more of like its own story, though. The other 2 examples are kind of, which I think makes them more believable. That they're trying to harp back on old Indiana Jones things, like, oh, this was Mud's blah blah blah, or the first one goes back to the original movies. I feel like they would do that. So
Yeah,
although I
feel like they
like
would do
number
that
2
too.
better, and I would hope that they would do something as wild and crazy as going back to what 212 BC, that would be pretty cool to see, but I don't think they did it. Look at that smile on his face.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too.
That's the movie I want.
It seems wild. That seems like more wild, like pretty sci-fi wild, but pretty cool. All right. So what's your guess, Vince?
My guess is that I hate it, but I think slide 3 is the correct one. I can also hear myself.
Okay. I'll say. Man. Okay. Like it's like how good is Eli at this? How good is he? I'm trying to read Eli's.
Thank you.
Trying to use psychology here.
This is where Eli's improv training comes in. I'll say that.
All right, I'll say something different than Vince. I'm kind of torn. I'll go with. I kind of agree, Vince, that the second one, maybe is less probably that they do. I'll say the first one is the real one.
So Vince, you say 3, and Dave, you say 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then in the chat we have, I think number 1 is truth, 2, 3 lie. So she's with you, Dave.
Okay.
All right, so I'll reveal these one by one. First lie. Slide number 3.
Oh.
So this one is actually, it is a lie, but Mutt Williams is mentioned as that he did die in the Vietnam War, which is like contributes to why Indy is who he is at the beginning of this movie. That's all the time they spent on Mutt Williams, and they don't go back in time and all that stuff. But there is a really poignant moment between him and her where he references it, and like Harrison Ford gives like a pretty damn good like performance in that scene and makes you like forget that he's talking about Shia LaBeouf. So that was cool. It was a cool moment, but that is a lie.
All right. Strike it from the record.
Dude, how good was that shit, that ending though, where like the hat, you know what I was going off of was the end of Crystal Skull where the hat blows off and you think you're gonna go and take it and put it on. So I can't take full
I was
credit.
gonna say, how many times can they do that? Can they put a hat on
Yeah.
someone else?
And I never saw it, so I was like, "Oh, that's so good."
That was pretty good though.
All right, Vince.
So you're
Now-
a good bluffer.
What was the ending of this movie?
Vince, make your now your second position. Which one do you think is the lie? 2 or 1?
Oh, you're gonna.
Do you
put
agree
me
with
on this
Dave
one?
or?
I'm going straight hopeful in this. I'm hoping that it's number 2 now.
All right. Next lie is lie number 1. Slide number 1.
Ooh.
They made our movie, Dave.
That's
We
the
gotta
one
go.
that I went into this movie expecting, to be quite honest with you.
Oh yeah.
I thought that like she was gonna
Yeah.
come back in time. Dude, yeah. They freaking figure out the dial of destiny and go back to like the siege of Syracuse, and they meet Archimedes and Indiana Jones. Like at first I was like, this is just like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's weird, and why
That's
the fuck are
crazy,
they doing
dude.
this? Dude, and he has this conversation where he just like basically begs Helena Shaw to like let him die in the past. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, I don't like that. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, dude, it's kind of poetic, because here's a guy that's been chasing the past his entire life and chasing history, and now he has the chance to become history. And I just like, I don't know, there's something about that to me. I wish they would have let him stay there, if I'm being honest. But yeah, she takes him back. But
It's almost like he should have died at some point to be like,
yeah.
because that he is indie, like, and it's almost like that's cool because it's almost like they're like, it is a little sad to see him so old, and they're almost playing off that where it's like, well, it is kind of sad to see him old. Like maybe he wishes like he could stay in this time before.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and the cool thing, in like what all the reviews I read were leaving out, was like they were making Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character come off like, oh, she's so condescending because he's old, and that never came across to me. Like she, like there's one part of her character that's a con man, that's an act, because she's trying to achieve the result of pulling Indiana Jones out of his funk of like, my son's dead, I'm getting a divorce, I'm this depressed old man, and the only way to do it is to provoke him. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like that's why I said like the James Mangold, it's like Logan. It's the same thing happened in Logan, where the little girl has to go and coax him into being Logan.
Why isn't more of that in the trailer, dude?
Because they're
Like,
terrible, dude.
The trailers
they're terrible.
did not make me like interested in this movie or even know what it was about or anything.
Yeah. It's the trailers are absolutely terrible, and like the capitalism line is such a like throwaway line it makes sense in the moment, but her whole like, her dad was an expert in the Dial of Destiny and like taught her all this stuff when she was a little girl, and then he ended up dying because it made him crazy. And so the rest of her life she like had all this knowledge and spoke Phoenician and like did all this crazy stuff, but she didn't have, and became like she becomes like an artifact dealer. But she does it all because like Indiana Jones is like, it should be in a museum, so she uses it to pull him out of the whole thing. I enjoyed it way more, and she's like, there's way more nuance to her character than I think people even realize. Like I think people are watching it wanting to be like, it's feminism, but
If part of that scene was in the trailer, I feel like I'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I would want to see that. Or if it was a little more like, say, like the Logan trailer or whatever.
yeah,
I feel
yeah,
I'd be
sure.
like, oh, cool, I get what they're going for. But instead, they're just kind of like kept things really general and were like sort of annoying. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so anyway, that's a Dial of Destiny. I definitely like, if you got, for sure, when it comes out to streaming, give it a watch, man. I think you'll be surprised. Again, it's not worthy of being, in the original trilogy, but I think it is a good enough movie that it's a nice end to that story. Archimedes aside.
For now.
Nah, I actually I really like that scene.
I kind
It's
of
just jarring though, right?
I kind
'Cause,
of
like, you
wish
don't
they
expect that.
left him in the past. Now.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but
So
But
it's
I'm-
pretty sci-fi. Like it's also like for all the people that like were pretty negative about Crystal Skull having a sci-fi elements with aliens, we got straight up time travel going on in this one.
Dave, I think your webcam's drunk.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I was just gonna say, yeah, it's interesting that like for all the people that were negative about Crystal Skull for like all the sci-fi elements it had, like just straight up aliens, which I can kind of see that. But then we have this movie with also like they straight up go back in time, which is very sci-fi like.
And it's like, it's all because this Mads Mikkelsen plays this Nazi that is trying to go back to 1933 so he can take out Hitler and like create the Third Reich for the 1,000 years, because he said that like Hitler was content in losing. So like that's the motivation, and he ends up like not getting there, and they end up, and there's a pretty clever way that they get there. But yeah, it's but it's in the same vein. I had the same thought. Like I was sitting there watching it and I was like, man, this is like not what you expect from indie, but it is, because it's like, they open the ark and all of the spirits come out, and Temple of Doom, or they drink from the wrong goblet. They don't
Yeah,
didn't
there
drink
are
from the right
more.
goblet.
Yeah, all more fantastical elements that are like magical.
Yeah, so this is like the same. It's just different in visuals, because it's the artifact that he finds that it like is it's real. It's real, and that's what I've always loved about this. That's what I've always loved about these stories too, is a character about a guy who's agnostic, and like he sees all of these things that happen to him of like a spiritual that like prove like what he thinks is opposite, but he still keeps like the the focus on archaeology and the things should be found and kept. And yeah, I dug it, man. I kind of actually want to go see it again. I might change my opinion a little bit.
I think I'm gonna go see it too.
It seems like you liked it more than a 6 out of 10.
I know the grade you gave it was kind of low.
I really think it suffers. I think the de-aging hurts it a little bit. I think there's a scene, I was telling Vince, there's a scene where he's in the beginning when they de-age him, he's on top of a train and he's running, and you see it in a wide shot and profile, and it's so egregiously PS2 that the character is running faster than the train. And I was just like, I don't know. So there's stuff like that. I won't say that that's like, it doesn't dominate the movie to where it completely takes you out. There's just stuff in it. There's stuff in it that I was like, but there's a great sequence with eels because he hates snakes. So now he has to go and contend with eels. And there's just a couple things that I'm like, I don't know that I buy this necessarily, but yeah, maybe I'd give it a 7. I think I would keep it at a 7 until I watched it again with some more.
Peachtree's in chat trying to pretend like she wanted number 2 when clearly she
Is
said
she faking
one
it?
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah, dude.
Wait, let's pull up the actual chat because then we can have it. Oh yeah, she didn't say 2. So I'm the
Peachtree,
winner.
I'm just gonna I'm gonna like chalk this up to my awesome skills at just lying to people's faces.
Yeah,
so.
that was pretty good, dude. Neither one of us picked it. I mean, this is the same. This is just like last time we did 2 Truths and a Lie with Vince. Neither one of us guessed the correct one.
Well, it's interesting from my perspective to watch you guys like watch your brain eliminate stuff, and then that's why I was trying to add on like things that sounded almost like I was slipping up and telling you what the end of it was. But
it was.
I did the same
like
thing
that.
to
It
Dave.
seemed like you just created a full script in your mind, and we're just really going off on them.
Oh, you and I could have made a better. Don't get me wrong on this movie. We could have made a better movie for sure. But I think what they gave us was, it was good. It was a good movie. It made me feel there was I'll tell you this. This is so corny, and I shouldn't admit this on the internet or even to my 2 best friends. But there was a moment I closed my eyes where like the Indiana Jones theme was playing, and I closed my eyes in the theater, and I was like, I'm never gonna have this experience again. Where I'm in a movie theater, a new Indiana Jones movie just came out. And like, here's a moment where he's like soaring and they're playing the score. Again, that might be overselling the movie on the whole too much. I don't know. But I just like, I had this like visceral moment of like, oh man, I love Indiana Jones so much. And for that much, I appreciated the movie.
I feel like if you keep going, the grade's gonna turn into an 8.
It might, dude. Yeah,
So
I
it's
got
10 out of 10.
7.5.
Yeah.
There's a deep sea diving expedition that I don't know how I feel about yet. So that's why I'm just.
That would be funny too to have
Weird.
if you put the eel moment in here. That would have been funny too, because I feel like I would have been like,
Yeah.
that's a cool concept,
Yeah.
but like, there's no way they did that.
It was funny. I sat there and it wasn't a monkey swinging in the tree moment, but I was sitting there going, is this movie's like, but it's great because he like it's playing on, he has a fear of snakes and they're just underwater snakes. So
There's a fine line between cool idea and funny and swinging through the trees.
yeah. and it added to the adventure of it. It wasn't like a swashbuckling moment. It was like really exposing his true fear of, all forms of snakes.
Well, I guess no more spoilers, dude, because I might watch it now.
Yeah, no more spoilers. I'd be interesting. Just based on this, I think it'd be cool to have a conversation about it once we've all seen it, because I'd love to know your guys' perspective. It always feels like you're on an island when you watch a movie,
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say too, the audience was really into it, and it was a full audience. I know the movie's not doing that great at the box office, but again, how did you market the movie? But I just yeah, it was fun being in an audience that was stoked to see Indiana Jones.
Yeah, the marketing definitely an interesting choice. Yeah, I don't know, man, but I'm stoked that that it wasn't too egregious.
I don't know if I
No,
already
man.
said this, but I'm pretty impressed that the actual like plot of the movie was the one that me and Dave said would have been the better out of the
Yeah.
three. Did I already
Yeah,
say that?
I was stoked about that because I was really interesting. This, because all three are kind of like outlandish ideas. I think the first one to me is outlandish, but it was more of like what everybody was acting like the movie was gonna be. Like, oh, they're gonna even shit. I heard like Kathleen Kennedy saying about like that character, and again, maybe they went in and did reshoots and changed the end of the movie.
Does
I've
Kathleen
heard.
Kennedy even know anything? Do they even involve her in meetings anymore? It seems like she's just
Dude, I don't
likes
know.
to talk about things and sort of, I don't know, man.
I don't know, man, but we got to get this de-aging in check, guys. I appreciate it. I love the concept of that. It's so futuristic and it's great. I don't think it's there yet, and I don't
I'll
think you
never-
should.
I don't think
Go
it's
ahead.
going anywhere, man.
I was just gonna say, like, we've come so far. Like, I thought we figured it out already, though. Like, to your point, you gave really good examples of times that it worked really well, and they did a great job.
I think
But
it
it's
worked-
like I remember back to the Tron movie,
yeah,
the Tron remake. What was that, like 2010?
yeah.
And it was like that was like the first time they did it, and it like
Mhm.
looked really bad. And
Well,
we're
and
like, oh, this isn't gonna work. But
See, in
Well,
that
it
movie,
kind
I
of
was
looks like a
telling-
person.
Vince and I were talking about that before you got on, and I was saying like I can excuse Tron a little bit more because it takes place in a digital landscape. So I'm like, okay, but it is terrible, and that's not what they were going for. They were, I mean, he is also like in his son's bedroom, and you're like, this would be the scariest thing ever if I was his son. But I was telling Vince too, like the real
Daddy, why
problem,
do you look like that?
the real problem is going to be in 10 to 15 years when it is seamless and it is just part of filmmaking, and like you're not able to tell. It's going to make these movies look so dated and so bad in a way that like you watch old movies now and you're like, whoa.
Well, hear
They're
me
gonna
out.
be able to just not even hire actors anymore. You can just have
Yeah.
anybody do it, and then just throw a different face.
I was about
on
to say,
there, and
I'm
then just-
pretty sure with AI, they're going to be able to remaster these and use current day in the future, current day technology to just rebuff and tell me that they're not going to fix the guy running on the train, like for the Blu-ray, if it's actually something that people found. And then in 10
That's
or 15
interesting, dude.
years,
I don't know how
AI,
I
I
feel
think
about
they're going to
that, though.
fix everything, dude. And just be
Yeah,
a remastered, non-bullshit version of the
Then
movie.
what's the point of watching a movie anymore? Why not just all play video games?
I
There's going
think
to be
we-
no point to watching
I think
a
we're
movie.
going to get to
'Cause
a point.
I think where it's going to go is either everybody's going to move over seriously in a large scale to VR and to video games or gaming. But the other thing is like, how long until you're able to punch in, I want to watch Avengers and I want Patrick Swayze to be
That's
Thor.
what I'm
I
saying,
want
dude.
John Wayne to be Captain America. Like, and then because that's essentially what you're doing. I mean, granted it's with text, but like how long until that's the thing? How long until a computer can render in real time and present those things?
Well, that's what people are worried about now, because now like AI is basically like, well, we have enough information. We don't really need
Yeah.
people. We can take it from here. And then people are like, now we're either out of a job, or you're taking the
Ooh.
essence of my likeness from the the cultural zeitgeist, and like that's wild, dude.
Well, they did that at the end of Flash. If you guys don't care about Flash spoilers, but
We've
there's a
already talked
scene-
about Flash, dude.
There's all these scenes where these worlds collide,
No.
and they start showing all of the old DC live action characters. Like Nick Cage's Superman is one of them, and he's fighting a giant spider, which is directly referencing.
Whoa.
It's
That's kinda
directly
cool.
referencing the Kevin Smith story, and then you have Adam West recreated in CG, George Reeves, Christopher Reeves, and the audience, like everybody on Twitter, was like outraged
That's
and
so
was-
crazy, dude.
and was like pissed off because number one, the CG was terrible. I've never seen a movie. I mean, this like Indiana Jones was the original Indiana Jones in terms of special effects, like compared to the Flash. The Flash is one of the most like egregiously erroneous CG I've ever seen. And I read a thing from a guy that worked on it and said that the studio just doesn't care. Their whole thing is they make them work way long hours, and that all they care about is getting the movie out. They don't care about the way it really looks. So if you're going to keep doing that, that's going to be a massive problem, and nobody's going to come watch movies because they're not going to trust them anymore. They already don't, but
Yeah.
That is wild, dude. That's a wild decision to make. We're like, hey, let's just bring back about a bunch of people that are dead. They can't defend themselves and recreate them in CG. It's like pretty wild, dude. I mean, even what they did with like the last Ghostbusters movie, bringing back Harold Ramis, dude.
I was upset
like,
about that.
It was weird to me. It was weird. Like I don't know. There's just something about like they can't like put their blessing on it or anything. Like they're not here, so it's just. And I know dead people don't legally have rights, but like. I don't know. There's just something weird about that.
But it makes you wonder.
Say
if
in the case
family...
of Harold Ramis, like his whole family signed off on it, and
but
like,
then that makes it weird too,
that's
though.
True, yeah.
So I get what you're saying, though. Like I think it's because as human beings, like if you're dead, you're dead. I really dug that scene, and I thought it was done really, really well. And it was interesting because it didn't look like Harold Ramis towards the end of his life. It looked like Egon from the 80s, but aged. Yeah. So I think it was slightly different. But it's like this. It's a weird conundrum because you're like. How do I, and I'm sure the families are getting paid. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But yeah, it's just, it's weird. And that was a James Gunn move, apparently. James Gunn changed the ending to that. And I just like, I don't know. I don't like, I just don't feel like you should make movies that way. If something organically comes about, then that's one thing. But
it's it's a cool concept.
Yeah.
Like I can imagine the theater freaked out seeing like Superman Superman Nick Cage. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah,
too.
that's also like pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Before we go, Paige in the chat, Peachtree, kind of leading up to what we're talking about in the sense of like future AI kind of dictating the stories. Harping back to the Black Mirror season, man. The episode Jane is Awful. You guys got to see it, dude. You guys have to see it.
Is that from the new season?
The new season, episode 1 of the new season. It does the Black Mirror thing where it's very interesting and it very much has your mind like kind of being like, oh shit, I never thought about that before. Oh shit. And that, oh, dude, it's so good. We also just watched...
the best, still to this day, my favorite freaking Black Mirror episode is the first one, dude.
That one's the one...
I'll never forget. I'll never forget watching that and just being like, oh my God, I cannot believe this.
I made so many people I knew from like places I worked watch it, and I forgot to tell them, like, maybe skip the first episode. Dude, so then they would come back in and like Tracy, like a 50-year-old woman.
That's the one where it's the president, right? And
yeah. And he fucks the pig.
That was an interesting one to start with, dude.
For sure. Dude, and then they show him making the sounds, dude. And then the best part of that episode is the end when he has to shamefully walk back in with his wife.
Oh, and they're like, dude, they released her 2 hours ago.
Good.
Is it what season is it on, Vince? 4 or 5?
So I think it's season 6 was just put out. Okay. The first episode.
I forgot about Black Mirror, dude.
So it's season 6. There's 5 episodes. We've watched 4 so far. The first episode is wild.
Oh, there's only 5.
But there's only 5, but it's because I think episode 2 and 3 are nearly movies. They're pretty long, and it feels like a movie, so I'm kind of happy with it. We just watched episode 4, and although I kind of want to tell you a little bit about it because I think it would make you want to watch it, I also don't want to say a word because we were blindsided by what actually happened. I'm telling you guys, please, if you guys have time, at least watch the first episode, and then if you enjoy it, I say we meet back on the Black Mirror.
I'll watch it. Text me the episode.
Cool.
Episode 1, season 6.
Right? Episode 1?
Episode 1, season 6.
All right, cool.
All right, boys. I think season 1 was still the best. It had 4 episodes I remember that were like really good that I really liked. Like there was the entire history of you that was like his eye records everything.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of like solid episodes.
Well, that was when it was on the BBC, right?
Yeah, that was.
I think so. Yeah, I feel like it super fell off after that.
I want to know which ones you don't like, Dave, because I'm such a fan, and I know that there's some that are hit or miss.
There's some to me that were like cool concepts, but just not executed well, or like didn't quite make sense.
Did you like the Choose Your Adventure one?
But that was a while ago. I stopped watching. So
yeah, did you see the Choose Your Adventure one?
Oh, I did watch that one. Yeah,
that was cool.
What was it called?
I can't think of the name of it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Bandersnatch or something?
Oh, Bandersnatch, yeah.
Bandersnatch.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Dude, please check out this episode. Jane is awful. It will make you definitely. The great thing about Black Mirror is it makes you question like the future that is coming.
Like, you mean like Twilight Zone?
Yeah, dude. But like Twilight, like, did you watch the new episode or the new seasons of Twilight Zone?
Yeah.
The good
At its
episodes.
best, I feel like Black Mirror is like Twilight Zone if it was made today.
For sure.
And I think that's
for
why I
sure.
like it so much, dude.
It was more Twilight Zone than the Twilight Zone reboot.
It's a technological Twilight Zone. Is how I put it.
Which is what Twilight Zone would be if it was in like 2020. I feel like, you know. That's cool though, man.
Gotta check it out.
All right, guys.
All right, well,
same time next week.
Thanks to everybody who is taking part in the chat. Peachtree.
Thanks,
And,
Peachtree.
yeah, guys.
And the Sir
This is
Penner
fun.
Dragon guy.
I don't know who that is.
He looks handsome though, just based off of the purple.
I bet he's really cool. IRL.
Bye, guys.
Dun,
Dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun.
Ba-ba-doo-ba-boo-ba-dee-da-doo.
Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. I was in band in junior high.
Skipping through the end times.